Okay, I'm going to make some rafters here. So what I've done here is I've already got my header set up for the top and bottom plate on the top of the headers for the rafters. And I haven't finished it yet. I haven't done this half yet. Now, um, just because it was a little bit icy up there this morning, so I couldn't cut the notch. I stand on top of the trailer. So it's probably going to be good now that I can cut that. So I'm not going to worry about that right now because now I've got this set up for rafters. Now, last night I had already set up a template. These rafters are only 2x6. I know that's not up to code. And the reason why I'm using 2x6 is because I'm going to put a bottom on it, almost like a truss, and then I'll put a brace in just to make sure that they're not going to go anywhere. So that'll make it a little more adequate. So, and this is just a trailer for summer shit, and it's probably only going to be a couple years, and it'll probably be tore down anyway. So this is my template I made up last night, and I've already got the checks in it. I figured it out, and I didn't plan this, but it worked out to a 412 pitch. So I'm going to go with the 412 pitch on the speed square, and I picked out the best length of my best part of the length of my lumber. Some of it's 16 foot long, some of it's 12 foot long, some of it's 14 foot long. I had bought a bunch of wood, and it's been sitting up there in the field for the last year, and I'm going to be building a shop and a loft and over in the corner, and then a house behind us. So at some point, so that's my intentions for that was for bracing and whatnot. So, but I'm going to use some of the material and put a roof on this. And the reason why I'm putting a roof on this deck, not because I want to keep it forever, but just because I have an awning on the trailer, and in a windstorm we get a lot of wind over here off the field from behind us, and it blew the awning up over top of the trailer one day when I wasn't here. Just gone to town for a few minutes and it was gone. Came back, and that was after I replaced the awning canvas on it that cost me $600. It was a 21-foot awning. Came back and I had nothing. Even broke the bars, bent the spring pole, everything. That was the second time. The first time I broke the canvas from a rainstorm. It was getting rotten along the edge of the trailer and it broke. So that's when I replaced it. And then I bought a small gazebo, tarp gazebo with the metal poles. It's different than this one. And it was only 10 by 10, and I had that set up for a year. The next year I had it set up again, and the wind took it. Then I went out and I paid $300 for this carport, sunport shelter that I put in here, and it worked the best. I got a little crazy this spring, long before spring actually. It was just, we had a nice day during the winter at the very end of the last week or two of winter, and I decided that I was going to put the tarp up. Well, somebody said on Facebook I wouldn't do that. Well, he was right. So anyway, I didn't care though, because I knew I was doing this. So I, I was ready for spring. So anyway, so I'm going to set this up. I got them all crowned, so they're all crowned one direction, so the crown is facing up on all the rafters, and I'm going to set them up for a 412 pitch. Now I'm going to use this rafter square or speed square, and it's already set up. It's got all the angles and stuff for your common and your hip rafters. So I'm going to go with the common at the 4, and then I'm going to set it back at the back of the speed square, and wherever the wood lands at the 4, that's a 412 pitch. For any of you that don't know, so I'm just going to mark everything here, and like I said, at a 412 pitch on the speed square, and we'll do it in front of your very eyes. And I find that that if you do a bunch of the same thing over and over again, repetitive, it's 3 times faster for anybody that's trying to do this on their own. Said I'm just continuously running 412 pitch on my speed square. Now I have kind of picked out the best places. Like some of this wood is a little bit split on the end, so I'm stepping back because I do have the extra footage. So I'm stepping back, make sure that I get the best quality of wood for the rafter. Now I already figured it's 19 pieces to run across from the deck end to the deck end, and that's where that's where the header stops at the very edge of the deck. And then I'm going to do is I'm going to hang over from the edge of the deck. I'm going to hang over a foot, so I have an eave similar to that building over there, which I don't know if you can see in the camera. So, and I'm going to wrap it all in metal, just because I have a brake and I can do that. I have little clamps that I hook on this square, but I just don't have them on me right now. Actually, I don't even know where they are, but I know I have them. I stumbled across them one day in an old vehicle, and I just don't know which one it was. So I'm not going to go worry about looking for them. I'm pretty confident enough. I've been doing construction now for quite a long time, and I've been a carpenter for 25 years. So, but we're not just necessarily doing this to code. We're not worried about the trade as much as we are the skill. So, on this one. Now, I'll just give myself a little space here so I have room to work. So I can spin these back and forth as I'm cutting, because this is how we're going to make it quick. I probably want to start from this end, because the saw, actually, sorry for my language. Okay. So I'll start from this end because I want the saw to be on the good side, not on the cut, on the waste. So here we go. Good, I had the saw used for another project. The guide wasn't set right. There's one time I did this in my parents' driveway, and I built trusses, and they're rafters, but they were built like a truss. And I built a 16 by 16 building there, and I put the rafters at 2-foot center, the same as a regular house, but I built them like a truss. And I built the whole entire truss with the webbing in it, in the bottom plate, and I did that in an hour and a half for the whole entire building, just by doing repetitive motion. And that's an hour and a half for the whole entire roof system, not one truss, just so you know. And if you don't believe me, there's a whole neighborhood that watched me do it. Then I boarded it in a little over an hour, the whole entire roof, with 1x6 board, tongue groove. "20-foot long, so it was easy. It just continues one board, and then I just cut the eaves out afterwards. You may ask the question, why are you using a compound miter saw? I have a nice DeWalt 12-inch compound miter saw, dual bevel. This is way easier to cut rafters with a skill saw than what it is a miter saw. Less figuring around, I just cut. There was 18 rafters here, and I just got 17 tails in that short amount of time, which I'd never do. Flipping the board back and forth and on the miter saw. Okay, so that's the end of the tail. So that's the start of the system. So that's going to be my measuring it's going to be my measuring spot. I'm going to measure off that. I don't unplug myself every 5 minutes. I'll be all right. Just got to give myself a little more cord here. A little bit of a mess going on, but that's all right. I won't be here in another few hours. Now, I haven't got the metal yet, so you're not going to see the metal today on this build. Metal's not ordered yet. Yeah, I priced it, but it's not ordered yet. I just want to make sure that it is going to be exactly what I said it's going to be, which it will be, 12 feet. I've made these rafters so when you put the fascia on both sides, because there'll be a fascia on this side and a fascia at the back, with a 1 foot overhang, that'll give me exactly what I need on both sides. And then I'll put a 1 foot overhang on both ends on the gables. And then I'll make it basically like a gable end, like your house, so it'll step down on the side, and there'll be actually a flat ceiling in there from the top of the top plate of that, what you see there now, straight in level. And that'll give me support, because that'll help. Once I brace that in there, that'll help with the wind pushing at it this way, and to keep it from pushing back at the trailer. Because nothing here is permanent, so there's not setting on any cement here. It's setting on cement blocks, patio stones, 24 by 24 patio stones. I cut in half and made them 12 inches by 24. And that deck's set there for the last 5 years. And believe it or not, I put a level on it, and it's not too far out of level, still in 5 years. So, but there is rock underneath of it, so that might make the difference. Okay. So now I'm going to take my measurement, and I'm going to use my template. I can get tape measure out. Okay. I'm going to use my template. I'm just going to use the measurement from the longest point on the template to the bottom. The shortest point is 141. So I am going to measure each one of these rafters at 141. From long point to short point. This end on this side is going to be a 412 pitch as well. Same way I figured it out for the other 412 pitch. So I said 141. And that's the short side. It's a little easier if you had two people. But I don't, so one person is all I need. Darn it. That becomes an issue. Tape measure wants to keep on falling off. course, if I go in and get my real thick tape measure, it might not. I just like these ones better. Fit in my pocket easier. 141. Like I said, I've already figured these out for crown. Crown is always up, in this case, or one direction in a wall. And not over crown either. If you got a real bowed piece, then try to discard that piece for a stud or anything. If it's, you can make a ship out of it, you probably don't want it in your house. But if you want to make a boat, save it for that. Now, when I'm marking these, I'm not marking them up. I'm marking them right to the very edge of the wood. And the reason why I'm marking it right at the edge of the wood is because your measurement will grow. If you come up to 3/4 of an inch, this tape measure is 3/4 of an inch wide, and I mark it on this side of the tape measure, and the tape is flush with the outside of the wood, and I mark it here for 141, and I'm going to mark it here at 141 where it's supposed to be. But for all intents and purposes, if obviously I mark it up here at 141, 3/4 of an inch off the line, and I put my speed square up against there, and try to make a 412 pitch from wherever I mark it, well, now all of a sudden, I become a 1/4 inch too short on my rafter. And that'll turn the hair on the dog's back, let me tell you. If you're trying to do something, you know, and make it look like something. So just be careful of that. Make sure that you always put your measurements at the very point of the lumber, or very edge of the lumber when you're measuring. Because if you don't, your measurements are going to go way out of whack. Angles are funny things. A lot of people don't understand angles. If you're a carpenter or anything to do with any trade, you do. You will. Angles can grow and shrink very fast. People say, oh, I measured it, it's 141. Well, no, you didn't measure it in the right place. It may be 141 from your mark, but it's not necessarily 141 from the overall picture when it's finished, if you don't measure it right. So, just a little word to the wise. And like I said, I like to do repetitive motions, repetitive things, so that's why I haven't put my speed square in any of these yet. I don't want to bring that out. It's too much fiddly. Like, I spend more time putting it back in my pocket than it takes me to do the actual work, and this is why people take all day to do stuff, because they aren't really organized in what they're doing. Don't get me wrong, some things do take a long time. I do tile, ceramic tile, custom showers for a living, and sometimes they go together real quick, and sometimes they take 5 times longer than I think they should take. And sometimes they just do take 5 times longer. I don't know. Could be me. Okay, so I've got them all marked. Now I got to make sure that my rafter squares go in the right direction. So I want these angles to be both at the same direction. So if that roof is going up like that, and that's a 412 pitch, down there, that should be 100% plumb. And this should be 100% plumb. So if that one's going downward, then I want this one to go upward. So I want them both to go the same direction. So it'll look like there's a point on this side and then it'll be the heel on that side at the top. All right, let's go for that. I'm gonna, oops. Ooh. Okay, so here's the question. What happens when you do this and you don't have enough lumber to catch your line? Well, 412 pitches the same way this way. You're just spinning it upside down. So you go 412 this way, and you use the tip of your square instead of the point of your square as your start point. Just make sure that it says the 412 and go in the right direction. Now, on these speed squares, you have a 412 pitch on a hip rafter and a 412 pitch on a common rafter. Make sure that you do not make them mix up. And if you do, you'll have a 3 pitch. If you decide that you want to start cutting them on the hip rafter side, you'll have a 312 pitch on the common side. Just so you know. It's a very common mistake. You get a little too quick and then you start looking at the wrong line. The old way we used to do this, we used to put a bird's mouth in and then we just cut them off the length with snap a line and cut them off the length afterwards. Well, if everything's straight and level and you keep your measurement all the same all the way around, and I mean the same, not a quarter inch out, everything will be line up the same way as it does. It is if you were to take them and cut them all off above your head with the skill saw and have all that sawdust in your face. It's up to you. Okay, they're all marked. Now, just going to slide them all over so I have room on the cutting table to slide them backwards out of my way as I'm going. Get my saw plugged back in. So, there goes nothing. And what I find is when I'm holding the saw in the wood, when I started, I stick my thumb up against the side of the guide of the saw, and that keeps me starting out square to the line. Gives me a little more control on the blade, especially nowadays where my wrist isn't quite the same as it used to be. There. All my rafter lengths are cut to length at 141. 141. And with my fascia on both sides, it'll give me the 12 feet that I want. So, with the rafter length of 141 gives me 3 inches remainder to make 12 feet, which is 1.5 inches for a fascia board, 1.5 inches for a fascia board on the other end. So now, we've got that figured out. Now we're going to go back to our jig, the template that we made last night, I made last night, and I'm going to just cheat the system because I want all the bird modes to be the exact same, and I'm not going to take a measurement every one of them. So these ones here, and Okay, so these ones here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bird's mouth. So I'm just going to line them up, set them up here. Since I already have my template, I want them all the exact same. I don't care that that thing might be wiggled in and out. I want that to be exactly the same all the way. There's no real support between the two posts, so the center could be bowed in and out. So we're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to make sure that this is the exact same, because if everything's the exact same, you can get a bow out. Okay? So I'm just going to mark a check here, and I know that that bird's mouth is now a 4/12 pitch as well. So I'm just going to mark where it starts at and how far up it goes. Because on the back of a bird's mouth makes a 90. If you didn't know that, you probably do. But so if you stick your square in like so, it should always be a 90. If your roof pitch is right, if your cut's right, it should always be a 90. That should always be a 90. Now I did this one with a reciprocating saw, so it got a kind of wavy cut there. That's okay. I know it's a 90. So we got to make sure that we do a 4/12 pitch, and we have to make it 90. So we're going to do a 4/12 pitch on that cut, and then we're going to make it a 90 back this way. You could do the math. You can figure out the other angle if you want to, or you can go a 4/12 pitch on your rafters, on your rafter square or framing square, and you can set it up like that. And you just have to, obviously, it wouldn't work out that it would be on the 4 and the 12, but you would have to figure it out some other way that the measurements were the same. So, anyway, basically, once you get your 4/12 pitch in here, you can draw that out as long as you want, just don't cut it. So, you know your 4/12 pitch is there, and you know that you have to come up, in this case, on my rafter square, on my rafter square, or speed square, it looks like it's about 1 3/8 according to the lines here. And that's what I'm going to go with. 1 3/8. So if I take that, and I do 1 3/8, I'm just going to put a little line out past what I want to cut. And then I'm going to run the speed square on the line that continued all the way up the board. And I'm going to use the back of it, and I'm just going to run a line. So basically, what I get is a check, a little line, a bird's mouth cut. So now I'm going to continue that all the way down the line. Now to do that, it's going to take me a fair amount of time, and I don't think you need to see that. You just see what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut them, and then once I get the cut, and then I'll come back. Okay. Now I've got my first one cut, my first rafter cut. So now what I did is I just took the skill saw and run it up the bird's mouth as far as I could till the cuts met. And then I took my reciprocating saw and just finished off the cut. Very basic. A little time consuming, but it is what it is. The other way of doing that is, the real way of doing that is to set all your rafters up on the end like this and just cut a continuous line at the 4/12 pitch all the way down at the depth of what you need it. And if you keep everything good and square, everything will be fine. And you can just do a continuous cut that way. And then you can do a continuous cut on the angle going this way. That's the old school way of doing it. I'm not set up for that right now, so I'm not going to do that. But that's the right way of doing it. This will get you through. This will be the way that you could do it yourself. Okay. I'm going to just put this one up here. And I'm going to just see, I'm going to check it out and make sure that everything's good before I go cutting all the rest of them. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to set it up here. Like I already know this is level. This way, it's plumb straight up and down on this side and on this side. So it's back and forth and side to side, it's level. Same with the back one, same with the center ones, same with the two end ones. Everything's the same. So I'm just going to set this up. I'm just going to check it. This is all just dry. I'm not going to put any nails in it. I'm not going to do nothing. I'm here by myself. It makes it a little more difficult to do. If you had an extra person, it'd be a lot better for you. So, okay, so now it looks like, to me, this is going to work out for the most part. So now what I'm going to do is to check and make sure I did it right. Is it going to run? Hope I can show you. I'm going to run a level line. I have a 6-foot or an 8-foot level, plumber level, that I use for my drains. And I've already leveled this header's level across the top. And what we're looking for is level here. And if we have level here, we knew we do a job right, which I have level. Okay? Good. So that's all I got to show you on that stage. I'm going to continue on, cut a bunch, and then I'll show you when I get ready to put some up. Now, I haven't got it figured out yet, all the way. I haven't got it figured out to where this header meets the edge of this step. Because this roof line is going to come out a foot past the step, because the step is made to stop at the edge of the deck. So we're going to bring the roof line out a foot past the step. That's for the fascia. But the rafter, where the header, the weight load will be, is going to set on the rafter, on the header, and the header is the end right at the edge of the step. And that's level. I already set this one up yesterday for level, so we're good. This one here I haven't figured out yet, but I do know that this deck is square. I built this deck. It needs some repair work now, 5 years ago, and it's square. I know that because I built it. So I'm going to go off this deck. So I'm going to take a level line to make my life easier and just run it off the corner of the deck here and shoot it straight up. I'll take my laser level and shoot it straight up, and I'll put a mark on the end of that header, because I know that header is way too long, because I had to offset my post. And the reason why I had to offset my post is because I have two different designs on the deck, basically, now that I have to worry about. One is the trailer. The trailer has 2 doors in it, has multiple windows in it. So, and it has lights on it. So there's only certain places that I can put a post that it didn't obstruct any area. So we can't block a door off because of fire. We don't want to block any doors off anyway. Don't want to block any windows off, so you might want to open them someday. So I set up a post, and it wasn't necessarily that they would be the exact same as the front, because I knew they wouldn't be, but I set them in position where they would not obstruct the trailer. So by doing that, I have this span from the center is offset, so it's more that direction to the left than what it is to the right. So what I'm going to have is a cantilever on this side, a little longer than, no, it's actually shorter. But anyway, I have a post span that is a little bit wider on this side than what I do on that side in the back. I'm not going to worry too much about that. It not necessarily would meet code requirement, but we're not worried about that right now either. So what I'm doing is, then what I did is that I already had 2 posts set up in here because I had a clothesline. So I had a post and a post, and they were already set up exact same off the edge of the deck. So when I replaced the post, I put these posts on the outside edge in the exact same position. So then all I had to do is find the center of those 2 posts, and that I found the center, and then I put this post, the center of this post is in the center of those 2 posts, and spanned from the outside measurement. So that's where I came up center here. So the front is exactly the same span between each post, and the header is the exact same, 12 feet on that side and 12 feet on that side. It's 24 feet wide deck, not an inch more, not an inch less, it's 24 feet. Made it that way. Lumber's 12, 10, and 8, 16 foot long. We need to make sure that if we're going to build something, try to build it in increments of the lumber that you can build within a 4-foot measurement or a 2-foot measurement, a 1-foot measurement. But you do not want to have a bunch of wasted material on any build, so keep that in your mind. So, material is money, and lots of it. So anyway, I'm going to continue on this, and then we'll get back to you as soon as I can. It's going to take me a little bit of time, probably an hour or so to get through these and get them all set up, and then I'll get them up there. I might jump up on the roof of the trailer there and cut the posts off at the back, and then I have to take this light off on this side, and I have to cut a notch. And what I'm doing here is I'm leaving the center of the post in, and I'm using that as a nailer for the header. So instead of using any steel or anything, I'm going to use, I use 4-inch galvanized spikes. Right now I'm just tacking everything together with a deck screw. Once I get it up together, then I'm going to have a nail, a pouch full of spikes, and I'll be spiking everything in. In between the header, there's a 2.5-inch span between the header from one plate to the other. I set this up like a pole barn plate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put like a rafter tie in there, and basically what that's going to be is just going to be a piece of 2x4 that I'm going to rip down. Instead of having it 3.5 inches, it's going to be 2.5 inches, like that, and it'll stick up in between and up past, so it grabs the side to the side of the rafter, so I can nail the rafter in the side of this after I toe nail it into the header. I can slap the rafter in the side of this, and then drive spikes into it, into the header, front of the header, and hold everything together, and that'll help all the wind that I get across here. That'll make that so it does not move. It'll crib it all together and make it perfect, I hope. Can't control tornadoes, but do what we can do. Okay, I'm going to stop you right there, and we will be back. So what I've been doing here is I've been cutting out my bird's mouth. So I've been working on this now for a little bit. So anyway, I just wanted to show you. I used the first one I cut was the template, and that allowed me to make sure that my bird's mouths were always in the same position in every board once I lined them up. So I've got this one all set up, and I've got the bird's mouth drawn in on both sides, both ends. So I'm just going to run my skill saw down the line, and we're going to try to keep the line on the board every time. And I kind of almost plunge cut that, just because it's a little easier to keep the line straight. So I cut it 2 directions, upward and across the top, where the plate would be. In doing that, I never cut off the line. I try to always save the line. I keep the blade right up hard against my pencil line. And when you do that, you don't lose any. You don't lose your measurement, because the pencil line's always there, and you know that's a guide. So then I just run my recip saw down the cut, and that cuts the back side where the saw is rounded. The blade is rounded on the skill saw. So we just continue the cut. And the longer the blade is inside the wood, the straighter it's going to stay on the reciprocating saw. I kind of cut on an angle. And then kind of rock your saw to finish your cut on the inside. There. So when you're done, you have the two bird mounts, one for the top, one for the bottom. And the rafter will just sit on the plate like so. Done. So, that's it for that part. I'm going to continue on. I'm not going to eat up a bunch of videos on video time on stuff that's not really that important. So it's the same thing over and over and over again. I have 5 or 6 more to go there. And then I'll be going up and I'll cut the top 2 posts and I'll leave the center up. Center of the post will be there, and I'll cut a notch in the front and the back to allow the 2x10 to set down on it. So it's basically sitting on the post. It'll sit on the post, and the remainder of the post that's left in the center will be 2.5 inches, and that'll allow me to have the nailing surface to make sure that the roof can't pick up and fall off the post in the windstorm. Okay, so I've got all my rafters cut. A couple here with a little bit of a bow to them. See, this one here has got quite a belly on it. Now, when I strap the roof off a 2x4, I'll bring that out. I'll strap that and push and pry and do whatever it needs to do to make that straight. So that's not a big issue. It's a small issue. And on the last 2 rafters, the one on each end, they're fascia rafters, and they're just fascia. So there's no check in those. There's no bird's mouth. So they just got the angle cut on both sides. Now those are going to be different, in a different position. Once I strap the roof off, I will fasten these rafters. They're fascia rafters. I'll fasten them to the side of the 2x4s that are sticking out on either end of the roof, and it'll be up higher than those rafters by 1.5 inches. And I'll set the fascia trim all the way around, and then we're probably going to end up putting soffit on this anyway. I'm going to close the bottom of it in, and I'm going to do a square bird box on the ends on both sides, and I'll put a flat fascia or flat soffit in there. Now, I'm not sure that I'm not going to just bend the piece of fascia and come down and just cap the whole thing off with the fascia metal, just because I'm there, and it's going to take a whole lot less time for me just to knock that out. And then I'll go on the inside, and I'll probably just use white soffit on the inside, just so the roof breathes on the inside, because we're not going to make it bend it on either end. I'm going to box it off. And that is for the reason being is to keep the snow from blowing up in and then inside the cavity, because in the wintertime it gets pretty windy here, and I might close this off just to protect what's inside a little better, and that'll allow the snow not to be able to go inside. So from either side. Now there's a rain gutter at the top of the trailer. This is mounted right on it from factory, and I'm going to bend a piece of fascia metal that'll come down the header once I get it up there. Come down the 2x10 header, and then it'll be kind of swooped out and then fastened to the inside of not fastened, but it'll just be loose fit in the inside of the bottom of the rain gutter that's up there. There's a rain gutter channel on the trailer. There's one up there, and there's one right there where the black metal is. So that'll allow the water, any water that might want to come off the trailer, it still does what it always did. We'll go down the rain gutter and out the end. The other thing is it'll allow the water not to come in when you're sitting at the table. We've had this problem in the past with the awnings and even this setup. That's the reason why the black metal's there to begin with. The water was coming down the face of the trailer and then splashing on the person sitting at the back of the table. So we're going to get rid of that whole idea. There'll be no issues there after I'm done. It might come in from the sides. We're not going to close it off right now. It may come in from the sides a bit. I actually have a black mesh screen that goes up the front for the sun, and I'm trying to find another one. I wish I had bought two of them in the same day that I bought the one, and another one would make it so the whole entire front is blacked out, because when you're sitting at the table about 2 in the afternoon in the middle of the summer, the sun's not up here anymore, it's beaming straight at your eyes. And you would have to have it closed off to about here for it not to be beaming at your eyes. So that wouldn't work, so I like to find another piece of the mesh canvas that I have already. It's UV protected, so it doesn't fade in the sun as much. So if I can find another one of those, we'll be off to the races. So anyway, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump up top, and I'm going to take that light out that's there now. That's only a solar light. I'm going to take that off right now. I'm going to drop it down. I'll mount them back up after. I'm just going to drop it down temporarily for now to a different location, and I'll put them up into place where I want them after the fact of the build. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to cut the back post off. I'll stand on the trailer to do that. And I'll leave, like I said, I'll leave the center up, and then I'll cut the one with the light on it and the plant hanger on it. I'll cut that one as well, and then I'll continue the header across. All my rafters are cut, and all I need to do is find the starting point on the top header over by the big windows in the living room of the trailer, where the barbecue is. Find the starting point of there. It's going to be the starting point. It's going to be directly up from the last floor joist in the deck to make it. That's an even 24 feet from floor joist, the first floor joist, to the last floor joist right here at the very end. Right here at the very end. So that works out, and then I'll do 1 foot overhang on both sides. So to make it a 26-foot overhang, I figured it out. It's 8 points something sheets, anyway, 9 sheets in total, because they're 3-foot sheets of metal, and they're going to be 12 feet long. Now my roof line is 12 feet long as well. I didn't do any subtraction of math for an inch or anything like that, and the reason being, it doesn't really matter. The metal's still going to be 12 feet long. I'll bring it down so it overhangs an inch in the front, and when I do the top, like I did, there's a building right here beside us, like I did the fascia, front fascia on this one, that roof will be the opposite, and I'll make it so the back metal comes up and overhangs the top of the sheet, so the water basically will have to hit that metal and then on the sheet and then downward into the driveway. So that's what I'm going to come up with. That's the plan. So now I'm going to stop the camera again, and I'm going to go out and figure out what I'm going to do here. I've already got these lined out. A friend of mine came over the other day, and he helped me level and brace the post. That's the reason why the strapping's on there. And he also helped me level a line straight across that's already marked on the post. And all I have to do is cut them and cut them into depth, the right 1.5 inches in, and we're good to go. We can fasten those 2x10s up. Once they're fastened on, then these can go up. I have to make the little blocks I'm going to make to set in between the header. They're 1 inch or 2.5 inches wide, and they're going to go right beside each rafter, top and bottom, and they're going to fasten in the side of the rafter, like so. It's going to lock it in, because in the bottom it's going to be fastened into the header on both sides, plus it's going to keep the span of the 2.5 inches on the inside of the header the way it should be, which works out to the 5.5 inches from the total span of the width of the rafter, or the width of the header. So we are dealing with a 2x10 header, and it's basically pole barn style header. It's not necessarily up to code. It's just a camper roof, and it's short term. Doesn't matter. So a camper deck roof, which is just floating here on the ground anyway. So anyway, I'm going to stop it right here and continue on. I don't know if I'm going to run out of time on the video. I don't know how much time I have, but if I do, we'll be back for another video to finish it up.